Good evening, everyone. The next instalment of the DFS Down Under show is live again here on a Wednesday night in brisk, cold Hobart Town. Smatho 10 is back with another edition of the show. And as always, for episode 26, it is Big Hef. How are you this evening, mate?
I'm really excited, Smatho. It's so close now. I can smell it. The weekend is coming. A massive show to go through this massive weekend we've got ahead of us.
Oh, massive show. I did some preparation today by looking back at the old YouTube videos of the BBL. Big final today, and geez, we've come a little way since February. So exciting times here tonight, mate. So we've got a big show. So looking forward to all of your comments throughout this evening. Any questions, drop us a line on our Facebook Live here or shoot us Twitter tweet. What is it? A tweet on Twitter. Oh, man, I'm so excited. I can't even speak tonight. maybe, Hef, we might have to plug the sponsor straight away. Say, hey, Colonial, looking forward to singing a couple of these on the weekend. But I tell you what, these are pretty potent.
I've been doing my preparation as well, Smatho.
You got to
take it up a notch.
Double stacked already. Jeez, you don't want to be doing that on the Colonial. It's a top drop.
I can't split them, so I'm looking forward to getting along to the Colonial and seeing what's on offer because there's a few I haven't tried yet. I'm looking forward to trying them.
Look, just a word of warning. These could be two-pot screamers. You never know. So lightweight myself just needs to monitor my my intake on Sunday. So how exciting on Sunday! Before we get into the live events and the news from the particular day, I've got to do thumbs up. The last of the qualifiers and the slates here on Sunday, and I've picked up a little beauty for you, Hef, this week. Ooh. This actually happened on Saturday, I think it was. So back on Draftstars, we had the $10 ticket, we had the $20 ticket for the slate, and also we had the main, and the person who won that was Jasel 8, Jasel 8, smashed it with a single bullet entry. Hef, look at this side. They're going to pop on the screen now. What a way to get into the final on that fateful Saturday.
We love a single bullet, don't we, Smatho?
Oh, mate.
What was that using? Is it Jasolate? Is that a play on words or Jasolate? I don't know. It's another weird one. We'll have to find that one out. Sam J. Reid for the win, Smatho.
Oh,
where did you find Sam Reid?
No.
106?
No, I was expecting a 50 out of him, but 106. Jeez, he's a good player at that, Reid. He's not too bad, but Stringer as well in there. Hopper, Toby Green, which we've also touted that he was going to go pretty well, and Bashir Hooley. Ladlands was a big, strong play, but seeing Reid ton up, and you deserve 2 tickets and $5K in cash.
What a time to pull it out when they just throw the $10 and the $20 ticket on for the Sunday, the last gasp, and just take home the lot, bit of spending money for the weekend.
Oh.
Wow.
Come say good day. Say to go to the live final. I'll give you a little sneaky 2 thumbs up saying you little beauty. But let's get the emoji up straight away. We've got a big show. 2 thumbs up to Jasel 8. Looking forward to catching you at the final. Well done. Back to me. 2 thumbs up for you. Well done. We'll catch you on Sunday. Sneaky shout out to Jayco, who actually smashed Moneyball on Sunday as well. He just absolutely had a massive fill up as well. So looking forward to catching up with him as well. Mate, it's here. It's Sunday. It's going to be pissing down with rain, unfortunately, in Melbourne. I think it'll be pretty cold, but we're used to that, mate. So, what we're looking for, we've got some wet form, don't we have?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So let's go for
it. Be functioning, hopefully.
Yeah. Now, we had a bit of debate earlier this week between ourselves. Well, the time of the actual game is actually 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's going to catch a few people out, I reckon. What do you reckon?
Wow, yeah, geez, there might be a couple run their race before we even kick off. It's a long wait, but let's hope it's worth it.
Now,
I'm sure it will be.
It's going to be worth the wait because obviously here at Day Fantasy Rankings, we're going to be all over the live final, commencing approximately around 3:30. We'll be at the venue, side by side, stick together, mate. So we're going to be doing the Daily Fantasy Down Under show live from the Colonial. We'll go through Sunday's actual game. I want your tips, players, etc. So I'm looking forward to sneaking in my beer lineup, which would be pretty good. we'll try and get a little shot with the belt as well. Obviously, we can't really put the belt around your waist yet, so but hopefully we might be able to have some models showing the belt for us as well. And then obviously you have to give me a hand with the beer, mate. All of our guests and obviously golden ticket holders will be able to compete for the beer. So obviously I'm going to be there trying to win that for Tassie. So what do you reckon? Tonight, Hef, we might start with help me with some beer. Give me some beer for me, mate.
You win some beer. Well, before we get started, I've got a little announcement, Smatho. I've been talking with the boys at DFR.
Right.
And they found lying around a spare golden ticket.
What?
And they're going to give it to you on Sunday. So you're going to get to put a team in, Smatho. You're going to be able to own mine. You're going to get given one.
What?
For all your hard work through the year. And I think that's magnificent. Superb news, Smatho. So now you've got to really listen to what I've got to say now because you've got to pick a team.
Oh, shit. Are you serious? Are you serious?
Yeah, no. Fair dinks. Oh. You're on board, Smatho.
Oh, shit.
So just when you thought you were going to have a stress-free day, maybe try and win some beer, you got some big stuff on the Time to switch on, Smatho.
Okay.
You got a team to pick, son.
Fucking, you kept that quiet.
Wow. Yeah, well, I was only just told before, but nah. In recognition.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Hef, for letting me know. I suppose. Yeah. Draftstars. Thanks for help me out with a ticket, and obviously, yeah. Daily Fantasy Rankings, who not a bad mob to work for. So I better perform on Sunday, mate.
Yeah. It's time to switch on now.
Okay. Yeah. Look again. Oh, gee, that's very gracious of DFR and Day Fancy Rank and Draftstars. Oh yeah, sneaky little 2 thumbs up. Oh wow. Okay. All right. Let me go back to my notes. Cool. All right. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit flabbergasted. All right. Okay.
I'm going to tear up on it, say, Smatho.
No. Maybe I'll no, there's nothing here to cry into. So okay, straighten up here. Okay. Oh, that's exciting. All right. My notes here. We want to talk about strategy, about how we're going to attack Sunday, and also I need to really pay attention now. All right. So all right. It's more on the beer now. It's for cash. All right.
Cash.
Let's start. Let's start. All right. So we've got a Sunday single slate. We've got 100 players. All right. What do we need to do?
Okay. First of all, I reckon you got to work out what's your aim. Are you going to go for glory? Are you just going to maybe try and sneak into a few grand with the hope? Of course, everyone wants to hope to win, but there's a couple of different ways you can attack it. Are you prepared to go home with $200 if you make a couple of plays that don't come off, or do you want to just go a more chalky lineup and maybe sneak into the top 10 or the top 20 if you get things right? What do you reckon, Smatho? What's your instinct on that one?
Okay,
well, the thing about it.
No, I haven't had a longer think about it, but you're going to come away with a cash price to start with. All right, so it's not like you're going to come on the bubble at 52nd and don't win nothing. You're going to go with a price. So you have to go. Yeah, you have to go a bit of glory, but be safe, I suppose. You're not going to be ridiculous, but you got to make a stand on possibly 1 or 2 players. Would that be something I should be doing?
Yeah. So I think you want to work out what you want first, and then if you are dead set on going the glory and you don't mind busting out and taking $200 home, that's when you start to look at the high risk players, because there's going to be a few guys here that people are going to be really wary of playing. Probably a great example of that would be a guy like Josh Kennedy, who at his price, he's got upside that he could win you the slate, but the type of form he's in, there's also a very strong chance that he hits that sort of low floor that he's got, and then all of a sudden your lineup's pretty much cooked. So you need to make a decision. Do you want to play a guy like that? Because if it comes off, all of a sudden you might have 5 or 10 guys you're competing with to win all the money. So that'd be the first thing I'll be trying to think about, whether you're prepared to risk everything to go for it all, or you still want to keep yourself in play because there's a much better payout structure than there was at the Big Bash, where it was first to third and then fourth and the rest. If you come sort of top 8, I think you get 8,000, 3,000 down to 15. So there's definitely more value in looking for a higher spot, which isn't necessarily in the top 3.
Okay. So would I treat it like it's essentially, I know you've got 2 tickets yourself, but for majority of field, it's a single entry. And I love playing single entry contests if you think that it's your best lineup that you can produce and you just go against guys who put their single entry. So should I just keep in mind that, look, I don't have to go too over the top with a single entry?
Yeah, I think you're right. A lot of us play that single entry, and even the guys that will put in 100 teams, they'll still put a team in that $10 single, which is probably the closest to it. It's sort of a mix between that and the stakes, because you can have guys thrown in 2 teams. But I think you're right. You don't have to go too wide if you want to be contrarian. You can play 6 or 7 of your safer plays, and then maybe look to land on a couple of those lower owned guys that are going to push you over, which we've talked about before, especially when we were discussing Moneyball a month or 2 ago. Just, you don't have to go all low owned guys at all, because there's a reason these guys are going to be high owned. It's because they're good plays. So you just need to differentiate yourself a little bit.
Okay.
Obviously, you can look at stacking as well, which
I was gonna ask you that. Were you looking to stack? If you're on a single entry, would you stack, or you just keep it a bit more balanced?
Yeah, so stacking is probably a slightly riskier play, because you're sort of relying on one team to dominate the game, and in this case, West Coast are probably going to be favourites to do that, or they will be favourites. Whether you want to take the full 8-man Eagles stack and then find a Crows guy to throw in there, or if you really want to try and separate yourself from the herd, you might look at an Adelaide stack. And if it does come off, the chances of it coming off is probably not great. But if it does, all of a sudden there's maybe you and 3 or 4 or 5 other teams in there with the Adelaide stack fighting out the big money. So the thing about stacking is you're getting away from playing the value guys that everyone else is going to play. And you may be taking a little hit on someone who's not priced as well, but you're banking on the fact that they're going to work together with all the other. If one of your guys goes off, hopefully they're going to link up with all your other guys, and that's where you're going to outperform value where most people wouldn't expect that player would. So that's your value in the stack, but it's a riskier strategy.
Okay. Let's talk about. Okay, I'm still a bit frazzled from the ticket. Obviously, there's going to be some popular value plays down below, and you talked about being contrarian. Is it still okay to play those popular, value plays just to build your lineups around?
Yeah, absolutely. The danger in going away from those popular guys is when they go off, you're miles behind the rest of the field. I would be looking at maybe trying to find a guy you think is going to be popular that you think is capable of throwing in a bad game, and looking to see if you can pivot off them onto someone similar. So an example of that might be a guy like Chris Maston, who, not a great footy player by any stretch, can find the ball. He's pretty well priced. So I expect he's probably going to be reasonably well owned, considering he's the cheap Eagles midfielder, and it doesn't look like there's many cheap midfielders on the slate. So I think he'll be well owned on that basis. But if you're quite happy to say Maston can throw in a pretty bad game, you might look to pivot away to another cheaper midfielder like a Seedsman or a Mackay from Adelaide. Whether they're good players or not, it's up for debate. But if you do happen to pull that off and they outscore Maston, then you've got an edge over a good portion of the field. So if you're trying to be contrarian, pick a guy maybe that's going to be popular, and try and it might not be the case that there's anyone who can beat him, but if you can find a guy who's going to score a little bit more than that popular guy, there's a chance to get an edge.
Geez, thanks for that, Hef. I reckon that's good in terms of the single straights and single game strategies, and I reckon it'll be good for a resource for any type of games. Obviously, the rest of the season, possibly, for the finals as well. Be a lot of single game slates for the finals. So yeah, cheers for that.
Yeah, no worries. Get yourself all set for Sunday, Smatho.
Now, something I want to talk about as well, I did put out the Twitter this today about any questions for the show. I want to sneak in a quick question before we move on. And it came from Warhead, and he asked today there was two players, Hardigan or Nelson. We'll touch on Sunday in terms of actual plays, but I want to get in for tonight. Hardigan or Nelson, what do you reckon?
Oh, yuck. That's my first instinct.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, Jesus. Okay.
No,
why is that?
Well, yeah, they're not guys that I'm really keen to play ever, but I do understand, especially this sort of game where we've got no obvious value in the midfield. I'm talking, by value, I mean cheap guys. You sort of got to spend at least 40-something thousand in your midfield. So, and if you want to get a few of these, if you want to play O'Brien and you want to play a few of those high-priced midfielders, then you might have to trade down somewhere. And I can see why Hardigan or Nelson might be on the radar there at about 6K. Gundam ahead, I'd probably lean to Nelson just for the fact he's got a couple of 70s in the past couple of months. I like the fact that he had 78 against North. If you think there's going to be a good Eagles win, the Eagles got a hold of North that day. If you think something similar might happen, then that might lead the rising tide, as we talk about, for Nelson to get his score dragged up by the rest of the side. So maybe he's a chance to repeat that. I haven't seen quite that ceiling from Hardigan this year. He went to Darling earlier in the year, so that's going to keep him pretty busy. If Keith comes back in, I'm not quite sure what they'll do. Maybe Hardigan will end up on Oscar Allen in that case, but I think purely on a scoring basis, Nelson's probably the way I would go. But one thing to consider is who's your other defender in that lineup as well. If you're going to play a Crow like Brodie Smith or Rory Laird or whoever you want to play, then I'd be more inclined to use Hardigan and hope they get involved in some chipping around down back. But I hope I'll be able to build lineups without having to use either of them.
Geez, thanks, Warhead, for that particular question, that answer, Hef. That was pretty good. Just make sure that you stop by the Day Fantasy Rankings website for all our data tools and articles on the site. As always, 3 to use, and I'll certainly be in there the next 4 to 5 days now just to get in there, and I'll leave you alone, Hef.
The monkey on the over you.
And just in the set, I've already put the tweet out today that they're already updated, ready to go. So they'll be updated when teams come out on Thursday night. Obviously, being a Sunday game, we'll get probably squads, but we'll make sure we up those by Friday evening as well for those particular games. Now, Hef, before we get on the footy, I talked about the leakage, and it's not about what Shafe said about the underpants that have been suggested, but something came across the old computer today, and I'm very excited to bring this to you, mate. But I had to get the approval from the bosses at DFR, and they ummed and ahed and just going, maybe jazz it up a little bit for the viewers tonight before you put it up. So, without further ado, on behalf of Day Fantasy Rankings, we present the 2019 KO Sports Draftstars betting market for the DFS live final. And I managed, mate, I didn't put the whole selection up there. We're going to put that on the site tomorrow on Day Fantasy Rankings, but I've pulled out a select few just on the old Microsoft Paint today. Put the old logo up. What a magnificent slide this year! And as you can see, Hef, I've got some odds for you.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll go for it. JK123 at $10 yourself. I put it's $12. Chance to win. Jeez, that's pretty short. Chris Eddie 99921. Richo's the defending champion of the Big Bash. He hopefully brings his belt along. 26. And Draftstars Chatman, the ambassador, the plastic cup guru, Parks 12, $151 to take the belt. So, yeah, that came across the desk today, and I had to go Tommy Brown style straight away. What do you reckon, Hef?
Wow. We can actually bet on these, can we?
Oh, yeah, I've got the mail that you be able to open your gamble responsibly. Gamble responsibly, but the details will be released tomorrow. We still have to get through some loopholes apparently, but yes, you should be able to place a wager on a daily fantasy player for the live final on Sunday.
Wow. Well, if we've got to be greedy on the 50 there, I can top up again, can I? Or maybe I need to lay off.
Depends what your units are, Hef, I suppose.
I can't wait to see what price you are, Smatho. Do the bookies know that you're a late entry?
We might have to get on the boffins who put the market together just to put me in as a little sneaky. Hopefully, I'm a little bit better than 151.
Well, this could be Prince of Penzance all over again. You couldn't be any shorter than hundreds, could you?
Well,
how's that going to go down with Parksy? $151. How do you think you take that?
I reckon you'll take it. He should be 201. It's a bit short.
Interesting to think about with these odds. Obviously, I'm shorter than Chris Eddy because I've got 2 tickets, I assume, and I think he's only got 1.
Yeah, I think that's the case. So, yeah, Chris Eddy has 1 ticket, and I think there's some waiting for the guys who've got 2 tickets. I've just had another browse of the odds now. So yeah, there is some. You look at it first glance, just going, "Oh, geez, that's a bit of value for that guy particular player." But no, I think the old bookmaker's seen who's got tickets and who's got only 1, and just frame the market accordingly.
No, very, very sharp, as they all are, these bookies. But we might have to find a couple of some decent odds.
Now, this will all be available tomorrow on Thursday, so we'll tweet out once the market is now live. All the details will be on the Daily Fantasy Rankings website. So tell your mates, gamble responsibly, but tell your mates and still gamble responsibly, all right? So this is just a bit of fun. This is not it's a bit of a chuckle. So hopefully put a bit of spice on Sunday when we've got some money on yourselves. It'll be pretty good. Mate, let's go through some footy. We've got some more footy to go through, so we need to build the bankroll for Sunday. So let's start with Friday night footy, and it's the Giants playing Hawthorn at Manuka, or the University of something stadium in Canberra. It's 21.5 line to the Giants, so they're warm favourites with a paltry 142.5 line. Sites Moneyball have a $20,000 contest with Draftstars $60,000 for their single slate. In team news, Grant Birchall did his hammy and looks like he's done for the season. We may get Dawson Simpson back after he was managed last week. Mumford actually did pretty well against the Swans last week, which was pretty good. But we'll see if he comes back. There could be a 50-50 call. Josh Kelly should be back along with Matt DeBoer after their injuries kept them out of the side for the last few weeks as well. So keep an eye on teams on Thursday night, especially with Josh Kelly coming back. That could really sort out the slate. I've got a little weather alert. It's Armageddon this week, apparently. The cold weather system coming through from the Antarctic is just going to rocks everyone's socks. And, Canberra's going to cop the brunt of it. Apparently, it's going to be snow on the hills in Canberra, so it's going to be pretty cold. So keep in mind, and that's not going to be a free-flowing footy there. I've checked the resources on the Daily Fantasy website, and what I found today was that, Giants still have a really large fantasy score against them when they played Collingwood a few rounds ago. So that's kind of skewy the last 5 rounds, but they are still pretty stingy in terms of fantasy points scored against them. Giants only actually had 2 tons scored against them last week, so just bear in mind there. Hawks have also been stingy, but they have been giving away now points to the midfield instead of the backs. So I reckon Giants mids could be the play here. Look, we talked about your strategy earlier in the show, and we're going to use that tonight. I'm just going to run you some players, and I want you to give you yes or no or a reason why you should be considering them, instead of going through these positions tonight. So let's start with Mumford. Now, obviously, he had a good game last week, but he's up against Big Boy. What do you reckon?
Big Boy let me down last week against Goldstein, but I don't think he will again. He's pretty cheap, Big Boy. Mumford, he played against, McLean. I wouldn't get too carried away with that big score. I prefer to go Big Boy again.
Fair enough. He's around 11K on Draftstars as well, so I reckon that's pretty safe play. Would you think?
Yeah, that's pretty cheap for big boy, and he'll be if they only have Mumford trying to go with him, I can see him bobbing up for some marks around the ground, big boy. He'll be keen to bounce back after last week.
All right, let's go through some primos then. Let's start with Josh Kelly. Where do you reckon Josh Kelly's going to come back on the side? What do you reckon against the Hawks?
Well, would you play him? It's going to be, what, -5 or whatever. It's going to be snowing, and he's got a dodgy calf. Like, it's going to be pretty hard to warm that calf up. I don't even know if they'll play him. GWS, what do you reckon?
No, that's a no then. All right, I'm not going to argue there.
No, if he does play, like I took him on early in the season, and he got 100 first up. Remember, he was injured. He missed the first game or two, and he just come straight out and got 100. So I think he's safe, but I don't think there's going to be huge upside his first game. So I don't want to be piling into Kelly. I prefer to look elsewhere.
Okay. Looking elsewhere. What about Toby Green? Forward status on Moneyball, and obviously his salary hasn't gone up since last week. I went the hard fade on him last week, and I just was disappointed in that particular game. So do we go back to Green?
I say look elsewhere, but Kelly coming back does affect all these guys. Like Toby Green, when do we start taking him on? Now he's been priced up. He's had this midfield role that he's thrived on, but Kelly's obviously going to hurt that if he comes back in. Just starting to think whether it's time to just drop off Toby Green a bit. Moneyball, like, they haven't caught up with him yet, so I think he's still reasonably playing reasonable play on there, even if he does have a little bit of less time in the midfield. He's not the lock that he has been, I don't think. Like, he's been a lock the last few weeks. I don't think he's quite that this week.
Okay, all right, jumping off. Very good. Jacob Hopper. He actually had a really good game last week, turned up. I think it was his career best, actually, fantasy scored. So a bit of recency bias here, Hef. We back on him again?
I think you can. I think he's priced well enough, and he's the more traditional midfielder, Hopper. So if they're going to make a call, I think obviously Green can play forward, so they're more likely to send Green up forward and keep Hopper in the middle. 13K, and he's about the 8,000s on Moneyball. He's showing now that he can ton pretty regularly, and at that price, I think he's still a very good play.
Very good. All right, what about James Warple? He top scored in the Hawks North match last week. Still reasonably priced, I can see. Any thoughts on Jimmy?
Yeah, so my ears perked up when you said Matt DeBoer. I forgot about DeBoer, and we talked about him for so long about what a good tagger he was. It just seems obvious he would go to Jaeger if he comes back. That's fair to say.
Yeah, fair to say.
You know my form in picking taggers, Smatho, and after you tipping Toby Green to get tagged last week, you're on my bench too.
Yep.
But I think it's pretty clear that he'd go to O'Meara. And Warple's the guy who benefit from that because he can pick up the slack. He was really good last week. He shows no signs of slowing down. Warple, I think he's a definite play.
Yep. No, I like him. Especially, the De Boer take. If he goes to O'Meara, he should go very well on Friday night. All right, I want to talk about mid prices now. I found this a little bit hard. That's why I'm going to ask him now a couple of these players as well. First one I've got here is Nick Haynes. He's looking pretty good. Like he's very, very reasonably priced for his potential.
Yeah, he's in great form. Good upside at his price. You did say Hawthorn's not giving up the points to backs that they have traditionally over the last few weeks, but I still think it's probably a good matchup, especially he likes to take an intercept mark, and the Hawks forward line's a bit all at sea at the moment. What's not to like about Haynes? I think he's a great play.
Yeah. Now, obviously, especially on Draftstars, you usually have to pick a mid-price or low price, and I've got here Adam Tomlinson around that 10K mark. Is there any? Do you like him? He might be a bit sneaky for me.
Oh, he's okay.
Okay.
Upside's a bit lower. I feel like he's going to get 70 or 80, and that's probably decent at his price, but he's just a plug-in guy, isn't he? He's not the guy that's going to win you the slate, but he might open up a bit of salary to grab a guy who will. He's all right.
All right. Well, around the same price on Draftstars is Sean Bourgoin. Burgoyne. So he's defender and mid eligibility on Draftstars, and he's at $10,060. He actually worked pretty well last week.
Yeah, big 100 in his milestone. It was a milestone game for him.
Yeah.
He did seem to junk up a fair bit in that game at the end. That 100 might be an outlier. He was very consistent, 70s towards 80 for a long time there, Burgoyne. If I had to guess, I'd expect to return more to that 70-ish score. I'm not sure he's going to be a regular 100 player at this stage of his career. And a bit like Tomlinson, just to plug, I don't think he's going to win you the game.
Yeah. So we should just don't chase his 100 last week then?
No, I'd be more inclined to stay away from him on that basis because people are going to see 110K and, oh, hello, we could just plug Burgoyne in here and move on. I'd probably prefer to be under the field, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. All right, the last one I got here is old sick dog James Sicily. What do we do with him here? Also, his role is so muddled up. His fantasy score has plummeted. Do we get something out of Sicily on Friday?
Do we have to? Do we have to talk about this bloke?
Well, he could win you a lot of money, mate.
Yeah, he could. I think it's the same thing every week. At this stage, like he's a flyer now, Sicily. But like if Jeremy Cameron doesn't come back for GWS, then there's more chance he gets freed up. And there's going to be a time where he gets freed up and he's going to win someone a tournament because if they free him up, he's got 100, 120 in him and his price just keeps coming down. But can you just keep pouring the money into him every week, hoping that's going to happen? No, but you've got to have something of him.
All right.
There's
just in case, but yeah, I wouldn't be going 100% in 10 lineups. I wouldn't be doing that. No.
But in a tournament, you probably got to play Sicily over Burgoyne just because he can win it for you and Burgoyne won't. That's my view of it anyway. But on the flip side, you've got to be prepared that he's going to set fire to your lineups when he doesn't get that right role. So that's the trade-off you've got to make.
Fair enough. They're both around the same price too. So if you get that defender with 10K left and you got a decision, yeah.
That's glory. It depends on your lineup too. Like if you've got no X factor in your lineup, go Sicily. If you've got a few flyers in there and you're hoping a couple might come off, then maybe you go a bit more safer in Burgoyne because how often are you going to get all your flyers to come off? You don't need all your flyers to come off to win, but you need a couple of them.
All right. Well, speaking of flyers, we need some value plays from you, mate. And, there is a couple from the GWS that we can talk up, but with Kelly and De Boer possibly coming back in, they'll probably be omitted from the side. So we won't go into the Giants into too much detail. But so I've gone back to Hawthorn and I've picked up Paul Puopolo. And I'm thinking, why has he fallen off a cliff in the last few weeks? And I found out he's only kicked 1 goal in his last 7 matches. So if he actually gets picked this week, I reckon he might possibly back in a little bounce back, score a little cheapy, sneaky goals and, make some value on his price.
You can have him.
Okay. Yes. All right. Let's move on.
Maybe. I don't think GWS is the type of team that you're going to get a bounce back against. We do remember that Hawthorn flogged GWS early in the year at the MCG.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's cold conditions that might suit Hawthorn. But they're a hard team to score against GWS, and I don't think Poppy's really going to change that.
Okay. All right. What about their key forward at the moment in Mitch Lewis? He's around 5K on Moneyball. Is he viable in these conditions, as you already stated?
He's going so well, isn't he? He can take a mark. He's continually getting 80s lately, which is obviously a great score at his price. I don't know. He's going to have Haynes floating around in front of him. You might get Phil Davis. I don't think there's huge upside in Lewis. I think he's all right to play, but I'm not in love with him like maybe I would have been in other games. And his price is coming up a bit. It keeps coming up as it should with his performances, but he's the type of guy I was much happier playing when he was a bit cheaper and in a better matchup.
Well, thanks for your thoughts there, mate. It's going to be a really tough slate, this one. As I said, there wasn't much value for kicking around, so obviously Giants in a great spot. But, yeah, good luck with your lineups putting them through. Sneaky time after
How'd we go last week?
falling on my sword last week with the Zeeble. 50 at halftime killed my buzz, but I managed to get the second sneaky back up, which is Stokes. Once Jimmy Anderson went down, cash that in. So my first sneaky on Friday night is a head-to-head on BetEasy. It is Jacob Hopper versus James Warple, the Warpedo, both $1.88 head-to-head. I've highlighted Jacob Hopper, and from listening from your takes tonight, I'm pretty confident here.
If DeBow was picked, I'm happy to put my title on the line, and I'll go Warple.
Oh,
just because I think he'll pick up the slack that's missing with Jaeger gone. So I'm happy to go to a poll on this one, Smatho. And
another poll. I might have to. Can I do a leading question on the poll just to lean everyone to Hopper? Because
if DeBoer doesn't play, then yeah, I think you're probably right with Hopper. But I think there's enough there that we can butt heads again.
Oh, all right. Looking forward to it. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Saturday slate. 5 big games, $30,000 on Moneyball, $50,000 on Draftstars. Highlights include Brisbane playing the Gold Coast in their little derby. The Pies are playing Melbourne. Geelong in North. Essendon, the Bulldogs, and Port are playing Sydney. So, obviously, there's some lines of attacks already coming to mind already after doing all these shows with you, mate. So, checking the resources again on the Daily Fantasy Rankings website. Free to use, as always. And, Gold Coast. Sticking out like a sore thumb, as they say in the classics. So, Brisbane got a 50-point line. I looked at the odds today as well. And Brisbane is still the stingiest side in the comp, so I can't imagine Gold Coast racking them up against the Lions. Other teams are around that mid-table in terms of points against. Exception is Collingwood now. They're actually starting to leak pretty bad, and we might have to put that down to the injuries that they have in the side. So it could be a bit of a Melbourne angle, possibly. But what do you think of the resources, and what do you make of this particular slate?
It just reminds me of that slate we had with Adelaide against the Gold Coast. And afterwards just thinking, how obvious was that? And that was where the winner came from. I don't think it's going to be a down game for Brisbane because I'm sure they would have been looking at the percentage implications of the top two like I have been with West Coast.
Yeah.
And they can almost... If they kill Gold Coast here and then they beat Geelong, I think they're going to finish top two. And we know how massive top two is for an interstate side. So they're going to be full bore. And I think it's very hard to see any other result than a massive Brisbane win. So, yeah, they're the obvious. And just remember with Adelaide, maybe don't go for the top level, all the top level guys. I think Rory Atkins was the key to Adelaide to winning that slate. So just keep that in mind when you're picking your Brisbane team. Who's the Rory Atkins that might get you the win?
Well, look at JK's side from last Sunday. That winning lineup. I'm just going to bring it up now, and I'll tell you who were the keys for that one. There were actually some Gold Coast players in that particular lineup, but I remember seeing Hoskin Elliott at 100. He turned up. Where are you, JK? There he is. Hoskin Elliott 112. Tom Phillips at 94. Jeremy Howe, Matt Scharenberg. They all got bumps 80. Chris Mayne got 90. So, and that was just a purely Pies and Gold Coast stack who took down Moneyball. So, yeah, don't overthink it as you were saying before. So, let's just go through the positions for this Saturday slate. We'll break down any other teams that you want to talk about as well. We've got the Rucks to start with, and then we've got Maxi versus Grundy in their epic battle again. So obviously, they're the two key rucks of the slate, but we know that if you go against Gawn, he's a bit of kryptonite, so you have to be wary about Grundy. So even if you've got him in season leagues, you might have to be wary placing the captain on him on the Saturday. These two will probably cancel themselves out. What do you reckon, Hef? Is there any other rucks you want to look at apart from these two?
Well, Gawn went pretty well against Grundy last time. He got 34 touches or something. I hate going against Gorn and basically never do. But does that Grundy's so good? Does that fire him up? Maybe. I'm not against playing either if you want to, but I don't think you have to. I don't think it's worth it on a 5-game slate. Then again, there isn't any other standout options. I thought Goldstein's probably a good option. I like the fact that Goldstein beat Big Boy last week. I think that's a bit of a scalp. Now he goes down to Geelong. Very ruck-friendly ground down there. Very ruck-friendly opposition coming against Geelong. Who knows which ruckman they're going to play? It probably doesn't matter. So Goldstein is probably a good option. And then we always look to target the Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who plays the Dogs this week, Smatho?
It's the Dons.
It's Zach Clark.
It's our boy.
Now, I played Zach Clark when what game he had 80 odd?
The game he shouldn't have got 80 odd, but he got an 80 odd.
Okay.
Yeah,
when he was really cheap. So I don't hate him as much as your average pundit, but if you want to play that take on English line, then there's Zach Clark there. But on the flip side, Tim English got 70 last week against Brisbane, which is nearly as bad as coming up against Gorn. It's just ruck hell coming to get those two Brisbane fellas. And like English, I thought he'd get snap Bruce Reid style. Got 70 there. Maybe coming up against Zach Clark, he'll get around the ground and he could be worth playing too, Tim English.
Now, it was around this time last week that we held our fingers to our ears and received some really good information about a particular player. Do you care to review on that particular piece of information?
I'm really scared you're going to give us some more information from this same source, Smatho.
Oh, I've got no words.
We don't have anything from him this week, do we?
He's pretty quiet there. Right
Avocado
now.
mail. Let's hope the feed doesn't drop out.
Let's move on to defense. All right. So, looking at the value players on the cheat sheets, and there's not really many projected players going over 80 plus on the slate. Look, I've only counted around 10 on Moneyball, around 15 on Draftstars. So, no real obvious value players on the horizon. So, I'm really a bit stuck here for the defenders. Rattle them through. Give me some good ones for me.
Well, Brisbane. Go and get some Brisbane players if you got no other option. And then, like Dan Houston's playing in the midfield for Port. He's turned up the last couple of weeks, and Moneyball pricing hasn't caught up with him. So he's sort of your new Brodie Smith back defender playing in the midfield. So he's a guy you can look at. Jeremy Howe, is he back in town now that they got Scharenberg down there? He's more of the guy to take the main key forward. His last 3 games, 80, 70, 90, 6K on Moneyball, 9K on DS. Like, there's definite upside there. Yep. And I still love playing Jack Crisp. I love the way he junked up against Gold Coast. He's reasonably expensive, but he just keeps pumping tons. Like, what more do you want? He's still like 9.2, 14,000 draft stars. For a guy who's pumping tons, if he was in the midfield, you'd say he was cheap. So, I think Crispy's a decent option there too.
Would you play Crispy over Jake Lloyd around that same price point?
I generally don't like playing guys against Port Adelaide.
Yep.
Is Lloyd much more expensive?
Yeah, I reckon another K more. So
it's pretty close. You can always play Lloyd. He seems reasonably matchup safe. He does like playing away from the SCG. So, he's in play.
All right. Let's move on to the mids then. And Will Schnelling showed a bit for the Bombers last week. The commentators were pretty pumped for him last week, getting whacked pillar of the post and still put up a really nice score, around 90 points for fantasy points. He only gets a $500 hike on Moneyball now, so he's only 4,000. So you can pretty safe with him. Put him in, so he'll probably be the chalk of the mids. Draftstars have actually bumped him up to 8,800, which is a bit of a tease there for us. But as you suggested, I think it should all be about Brisbane trying to jam a few of those blokes in. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think you're right. That Draftstars price is, you're right, it is a bit of a tease. It's not a brainless decision to just pump him straight in at that price. Brisbane midfield sort of depends on Zorko, whether he's going to play. Zorko has this huge grudge against the Suns.
Yeah, but it took Miller. His feud took Miller. Is that the bloke?
Yes. So he hasn't been. Oh, I didn't think of that, Smatho. He hasn't been tagging recently. Took Miller, but yeah, they've got that whole shaking hands things in the past, don't they?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they got nothing to play for, Gold Coast. Why wouldn't they send Took Miller and have a bit of fun with Zorko in that case? Maybe Zorko's one to avoid there. But all those guys, like, you can get a few of the cheaper guys too. Like Christensen, he's the type of guy that's going to thrive in a bit of a carcass. Jared Berry's still quite cheap and he's improving. McCluggage still isn't priced quite on that top tier. There may be those they're not quite second level players, but they're the guys just off the top that can save you a bit of cash and hopefully go big against the Suns. Lockie Neal's an obvious one.
Yep.
So the Pies could run all over the Ds. We know how good the Pies are at getting the ball and spreading it around amongst each other. That whole Treloar, Taylor Adams, not being able to function in the same team, I'm not sure that's really the case anymore. So those guys are in play. Tay Adams especially is priced reasonably well. And then the other team I'm sort of looking to target here is the Dogs. The Dons were hopeless last week. They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe they're just running out a bit of puff. The Dogs were quite good against Brisbane. Guys like Bontempelli at 14,000. Lockie Hunter's only about 12,000. There is a chance that they could dominate that Essendon game, and if they do, we do know their midfielders. McRae and Dunkley go along with them. They do go really big, so they're always in play in a decent matchup. The Dogs.
Yeah, good contrarian spot. You know, if everyone's going to smash all the Brisbane, yeah, just put a couple of sneaky Bulldog side late, and you might have a really good sweat on late Saturday night.
Yeah, maybe use the cheap Brisbane guys with the expensive Dogs.
Bulldogs. Good. I like it. All right, forwards. And we don't have to spend too much time here on Moneyball. We've got Lethams, if he's picked again at 3.9K, and then McLean at 4K. Both forward eligibility only. That's just throw the way key. That's due chalk. So let's look at Draftstars then. I really like Robinson. His forward availability. He's at 13K. So if you're going to avoid the mids of Brisbane, you can always plug him in. I also like Jakey Stringer. I reckon he's starting to build some really good form at 9,000 on Draftstars as well. What do you think of these guys?
Is that the revenge Stringer narrative there?
Oh, yeah, the narrative, yes. Outside, yes, 9K. Sign me up.
Yeah, no, he's going well. He's unreal in those centre bounces, Stringer, and he's got the 10x upside at that price on Draftstars. So, yeah, I think you found a good spot there for him. Robinson, I agree. Robinson was unreal last week. He was just everywhere against the Dogs. He's not the type of guy who's capable of backing off, I don't think. So he'll be a million miles an hour against the Suns. I agree with him being an excellent play there. Everyone's been playing Rayner all year at the cheap. Can't get a better matchup this week than the Suns, so maybe it's time for him to repay everyone. Hipwood's another guy who just teases everyone, but he could kick 6 against the Suns and you wouldn't think twice about it. So he's still pretty cheap just because of his up and down sort of scoring. Lemons is still running through the middle there at the Gold Coast. He's still quite cheap. He hasn't shown that he'd go huge, and Brisbane's not a great matchup, but the more he plays in the midfield, you'd have to think the more of a hang of it he's going to get. So I think he's still in play again. And then just looking at role changes, Chris Mayne seems to be back to that sort of just easy, no one near him running through the middle role at Collingwood after having that forward tagging gig for a couple of weeks there. So he can definitely go 100 against Melbourne, and he's priced reasonably cheaply on Moneyball. So he was in Jay's winning team last week, Chris Mayne. I think it wouldn't surprise me if he was in a winning team again.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, that's Saturday then. So I've got one more sneaky before the end of the show here tonight. So we'll concentrate on Sunday because it's obviously big day on Sunday. But I've got this sneaky here from Sportsbet, which is the Marcus Ashcroft medal, which is obviously the best of field on the Brisbane and Gold Coast game. And we're talking about Zorko, possibly even missing or being tagged. I'm loving the value of Jared Lyons at $8 for the medal. yes, we do have to try and get over Charlie and Lockie Neal, and we don't really see many Gold Coast players there in the mix. So $8 for the medal. I already nailed one earlier this year with the Travis Spoke picking up a medal. So I'm in a bit of medal form. What do you reckon of the $8 for Jared Lyons that is available on Sportsbet?
Yeah, I like it. Brisbane don't have that obvious like Bontempelli, Dangerfield star that always tends to win these type of medals, do they? And like Neil's going to get a lot of touches, but Lyons has those big 30-touch 4-goal games, and like he's got to be fired up to play against his old team. So, and if Zorko doesn't play, you get a little bit of love with that 650 chance the other market there too. I like it, Smatho. Nice find.
I like it. Hopefully we'll be cashed up for Sunday. I still can't believe you told me that I'm getting a bloody ticket.
I can take it off you.
No, that's fine. I'm capable.
I had to lobby for you, Smatho. Let's be honest. I did a lot of the hard work for you behind the scenes.
And speaking of behind the scenes, thank you for the avocado for keeping quiet tonight. So I'm sure he was hanging on to that information last couple of days and decided not to blurb it out to me. So yeah, shout out to you, avocado, to pressing the buttons there. So
he's redeemed himself. He's after last week. He's come back strong.
No, there's redemption and then there's trust, right?
You got to get the Sunday without putting any noses out of joints, Smatho. That's my tip for you.
No,
it's not too late for him to take it off you.
No. No. Thanks for the tip, Hef. Thank you. I regret that. I retract my statements. All right. So, plan is daily fantasy rankings. Get on the website. All of our articles, cheat sheets, data tools are all free. I'm very excited to see the markets go up tomorrow for the live final. So once that's available through our bookmaker, we'll let everyone know so you can put your little sneaky wagers. Now, Hef, we'll see you in Melbourne on Sunday. We will catch up for a live Facebook show prior to the AFL Live Final. We'll tweet out the exact starting time so you can jump on, watch us two side by side, and we'll go through the Eagles and Adelaide match so you can follow along and put your teams in for the regular slate and see if you can actually beat the pros in Melbourne. And then we'll catch up with a variety of guests. I'm looking forward to the players, the atmosphere. I'm very excited. Jumping on the plane on the weekend. Hef, we'll catch you on Sunday. Thanks for the massive show tonight.
Can't wait, Smatho. See you there, mate.
Drink responsibly. Gamble responsibly. See you later.
Next week.